Around this time last week, I made a video talking about my favourite cheap players in the Euro 2024 fantasy game. And since then, I found a few more. And I'm going to talk about them in this video. So starting things off then, we've got Wout Faes of Belgium. He should be a first choice centre-back starting for Belgium alongside Vertonghen. I'm a championship season ticket holder at Bristol City, so I've seen this guy play a couple of times in person this season, and a few comments I'd have on him as a player. He's fantastic on the ball. I remember him making a couple of runs against my team, basically blazed through our midfield and got into our box, just with his dribbling ability and ability on the ball. He is really good on the ball, and he's also really good in the air. I remember him being quite a threat from set pieces and getting on the end of a fair few Leicester corners. I would say though, he's not necessarily the best out-and-out defender. And in general, I don't think Belgium have the best defence. I think they'll probably get through their group on, the fact they'll probably outscore teams. But I don't hugely back Belgium defensively. Now, that doesn't mean I think Faes is a bad pick. I think 4 million, you can't really ask for much more for that price. But a word of caution, I do think Belgium will concede this tournament. We've also got Sels, the Belgian keeper, in at 4 million, the minimum price for a goalkeeper, and it looks like he's going to play. Particularly, obviously, Courtois has not been included in the Belgian squad, and that leaves space for a goalkeeper. And Sels, I believe, will be the first choice goalkeeper. A lot of predictions to suggest so. He's been playing really well at Nottingham Forest as well, ever since he signed there. And I think in general, of all the 4 million goalkeepers, not obviously even doubts about Belgium defensively, I think he's probably the best one that you can pick. One thing I would say, yes, there's a lot of predictions and I think he will start. It's not 100% guaranteed that he will, so need to keep tabs on those Belgium friendlies to make sure he is first choice, but I reckon if he starts them both, he's going to start the tournament. All right, bit of a controversial one as to whether you class him as cheap, but I wanted to use this slot just to talk about Gundogan. Now, I'm not necessarily suggesting he's a really cheap option, but I've seen a lot of people going for Kai Havertz and Florian Wirtz, who in their own rights are good picks, right? I just think Gundogan is the one you should be going for from Germany. Nailed on to start. I think Wirtz, there's a little bit of doubt as to how many minutes he will actually play. He's competing with Musiala and Sane for that kind of left-wing position. Both of those players could play there. Gundogan, I think, is going to play as like a number 10 in behind Havertz. And I think Havertz playing kind of a false 9. The two at some point will interchange. I do feel like Gundogan might be playing, for bits of the game, centre forward for Germany. And I think we've seen in seasons gone by when he's played for Man City, he's actually pretty decent in that position. There was a couple of seasons ago where they won the league title and Gundogan was basically playing as their false 9. Germany in general as well, they're the home nation. They've got a good group. I think they'll do quite well. And Gundogan should be decent for ball recoveries as well. I think he'll probably get more of them than Wirtz will, for example. So at 7 million, I think you've got to go for it. Right, next up, I wanted to talk about the Ukrainian striker Dovbyk at 7.5 million. I think he's probably the best sort of cheap striker available. Just finished as the top scorer in La Liga, will be the penalty taker for Ukraine. I think he's obviously nailed on up front to start for them. I think this tournament, he's got a chance to really put himself in the shop window for a big move this summer. When players have strong international tournaments, it really, think of James Rodriguez in the past, it really lines them up for big moves to big teams. And I think Dovbyk has a real chance to get that if he does well this summer. His group is Romania, Slovakia and Belgium. Belgium obviously being the stronger of the three. And even then I've said I think they're pretty weak defensively. Romania and Slovakia, got to think Ukraine can score against them. So 3 fixtures where he could potentially score in all of them. Nailed on penalties, 7.5 million. Yes, Kai Havertz is the same price, but I actually prefer Dovbyk. Let me know what you think of that in the comments. Next up, another Ukrainian, and that's the goalkeeper Lunin. I think in my mind, he is my favourite 4.5 million goalkeeper in the game. He's obviously been playing pretty well for Real Madrid, filling in for Thibaut Courtois, and he should be the first choice Ukrainian keeper. There is another one that he has shared minutes with in the past, or shared games with in the past, but I think given he's been playing so well for Madrid, he's probably earned himself that number 1 shirt. For the first couple of fixtures, he's got Romania and Slovakia. You think Ukraine could potentially keep clean sheets in those games. And yeah, ultimately, I think most people are going to use a chip match day 3. So in reality, they're picking their team for kind of only the first 2 match days. that means Lunin, I think, is a really nice option. There is, of course, a risk that he doesn't start. Like I said, there is another Ukrainian goalkeeper in contention. So we have to keep an eye on the friendlies. I do believe he will play, but yeah, just one to monitor. I'll confess this isn't the most interesting pick, but Jonathan Tah should be starting at centre-back alongside Rudiger. He's had, of course, an undefeated domestic campaign with Leverkusen, unfortunately, of course, losing in the Europa League final. Not quite as cheap as Mittelstadt, who I still think is my pick of like the cheap German defenders. He's only 4 million, right? But Tah, I think, makes sense as a double up if you fancy it. You know, Germany have Scotland, Hungary and Switzerland. Pretty favourable group. Could keep some clean sheets there. And I think he's pretty nailed on to start alongside Rudiger. And at 4.5 million, I can't really find a defender at that price that I prefer. One thing about Tah as well, I'm pretty sure he's like 6'4", 6'5", absolutely massive. And I think he's going to be a threat in the opposition box from set pieces as well. So yeah, really like him as an option alongside Mittelstadt. Now, Güler of Turkey, obviously Turkish wonder kid, currently at Real Madrid. He's got Georgia first up, one of the best fixtures possible. I've seen he's pretty popular in the game. I've had a fair few comments in my videos saying that people are going for him. He's currently in my draft, 0.5 million cheaper than Çalhanoğlu, who I would suggest is the other sort of pickable Turkish midfielder. One couple things about Güler though, he's not on set pieces or penalties. Çalhanoğlu takes those. And just bearing that in mind, I think in order to pick him, you have to justify 0.5 million less for not being on those things. Is that worth it? I don't know. At the moment, I've made the decision that it is, and he's in my team, which of course means I think he's a decent option. But yeah, I'd just say you have to weigh that up in your mind. Is he worth just the 0.5 saving over Çalhanoğlu? I want to talk about Jorginho because at 5 million, I think he could be one of the best value players in the game. Historically, he is a good player in international fantasy games because traditionally he is the Italian penalty taker, and for some reason Italy seem to get 2 or 3 penalties every tournament, it feels like. Well, Jorginho does anyway. But apparently, according to the Italy manager, he's now off pens and Chiesa is the taker because Jorginho has missed a few for them. I don't know. I have a feeling Chiesa could miss one and then it's back to Jorginho, something like that. Yes, it doesn't necessarily mean he's the first choice pen taker, but there could be times when Chiesa isn't on the pitch and Jorginho could be taking them. So I do think he's got a chance of getting some penalties. I think he'll be decent for ball recoveries as well. And at 5 million, I don't really think you can ask for too much more. I would say there's a question mark as to whether he will definitely start. I personally think he does, particularly considering he always seems to play better at international level than he does his club. I think sort of the slower style of international games suits him a bit more. So yeah, 5 million, I don't think you can do much better. Finally then, I'm not going to spend too long on this, but I mentioned in the last video, Ian Maatsen could be good value at 4.5 million, playing potentially left wing back for the Netherlands. Well, Koeman announced his squad yesterday, and Maatsen wasn't in it. So there you go. I mean, apologies for mentioning Maatsen, but I just wanted to confirm that he's not in the Netherlands squad. So if you have him in your team at the moment, I wouldn't recommend it. All right, and that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed that and found it useful. Let me know in the comments if there are any more cheap players I didn't mention there that you think are good options. Yeah, if you enjoyed it, please leave me a like, rate, and let me know in the comments. Like I said, subscribe to the Golden Goal channel, which should be just there. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in my next video.